Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I guess whatever part of the world you're in, whenever you're listening to this. My name is Ray Gage. I'm here with my co host, D. Grant Smith. And this is episode 5 already of All Angles Asked. Welcome, welcome, welcome. D, we had been talking a little bit about the conversation we had last time around abundance, and there's some questions that were coming up about that, and maybe a little bit about how it applies to what we do for work. So, if you could give us a little bit of background on what those questions are, how they came up, and then we'll go into kind of addressing them, going backwards to address them.
Yeah, so my recollection of this is 2 episodes ago, which I guess would be three, or episode three. Towards the end of our conversation, you said something, and I kind of like threw in this little like quip. I was like, "Oh, that sounds like abundance consciousness," and you said, "No, if it were." The people that talk about abundance consciousness, most of them don't really know what abundance is. Because as soon as you put a price tag on something, or as soon as there's something to sell, it's not abundance consciousness anymore. When you have abundance consciousness, there's nothing to sell. And when you said that, there's like this, I don't want to say it was a light bulb. I want to say that it was this opening into like another dimension that just like came into my consciousness. And it happened in the moment that you said that. It also happened in the moment that I was, as I'm producing the videos, and I'll be 1000% honest with you guys listening and watching. There's not much that I do on the production end. So I'm just watching the video again, and I hear Ray say that because I was like, what part of the conversation did he say this? And when you said it, like the epiphany happened again. And I've been meditating and praying about that. And the more that I think about it, the more like, dude, it's totally, not only is it right on, but it's so like apparently, obviously, geniusly clear that, yeah, as soon as you put a price, as soon as you attach a number to something, you're not talking about abundance anymore. Abundance doesn't have numbers. That's the whole point of it. And the idea that this is something that we market and sell to somebody else to change their consciousness takes away from the whole concept of it itself. I've been in this for the past, I don't know, month and a half. We don't do this every week, but so for the last little bit since we had that conversation, I I pray about this, I meditate on this because so much for me personally, so much has shifted and changed in my professional journey and career, and there's so many things that like, I mean, to be just totally transparent and vulnerable and honest, like there were things that I was incredibly obsessed over regarding career. Like I was obsessed with the idea of success, but success had to mean this one thing. It had to mean that like tons of people knew who I was and they were all buying my stuff, and that like that's how I understood abundance. Like it was, the abundance was tons of people and tons of money and tons of this and tons of that. And the more that I chased after that and pursued it, I realized now I was really advocating for unconsciously this idea of separation and this idea of loss and lack. And also, because the more that I chased after that, the more that that ran away. It was never anywhere close by. And I'm so thankful for my wife because she's helped me see that, A, none of that stuff was really me. And my pursuit of it was not really me. And second, that's all of the like influencer, for me anyways, in my journey, the influencer chasing, or the desire to try to have some sort of thing and to acquire all of this stuff as a semblance of significance is missing the mark altogether, which I guess is another way of looking at sin. So I had this aim, and I was missing the mark on that, and then beating myself up over missing the mark on that. So I just kept digging harder into it. And I've gotten to this place where I've let all of that go. Like I used to be very active on I was fairly active on Instagram, but I would make videos all the time on YouTube. I did like a video a day or something like that for a long time. I would write tons of blog articles and just write and write and write. And I was trying to acquire an audience. Uh, and I had one for a while. But I'm actually so grateful now that the stuff that I was doing never took off in the ways that I wanted it to, because I would have been opening myself up to go into this other prison of being like, held back by the opinions and perspectives and interests of so many other people. But all that to say that as I've been meditating on this stuff, there's two things that have come to mind. One, for me, letting go of attachment to outcomes and letting go of attachment to some sort of like semblance of what the world in any capacity considers to be successful, because a different definition. I've been shifting my focus back to what I've been reading about in Conversations with God. It's also in A Course in Miracles, which I know you're a huge proponent of. I think it's all throughout the Bible, and it's all throughout all kinds of other scriptures, which is just focusing on God. And any attachment to anything else other than God is missing the mark, and finding fulfillment and satisfaction and joy in just that. And so, I my professional journey, as of now, like when people say, "Well, what is it that you do?" I kind of shrug my shoulder, and like, you know what? I don't really know. I mean, there's some stuff that I'm a storyteller, and I do help other people tell their stories, and there's professional services and stuff that I offer, but like I don't even think about it that way anymore. And so, like, how do you make money? Like, God gives me money. Like, it comes in expected and unexpected places, and I'm learning that that's what it means to live in abundance. So that's kind of like where my journey is. And also, I said this to you before, but I'll say it to you now since we're recording. In my meditations, the response that comes through spirit is, "Oh, that's something for you to talk about with Ray." And so here we are having this conversation and
Right.
exploring what is abundance consciousness, especially as it involves business and our careers and our professions. What does that look like? How does that operate? Does this mean that does this mean I've been doing it all wrong this whole time? Is there a new phase to enter into? What is my mindset? If it's not about adding a number to something, then how do I charge people for my services? Like when people say, well, what is your business? How do you make money? Like, how do I answer these questions? Because these have been things that have come up in conversations that I've had with people over the past, especially several months. And so much of it is living in a state of faith and living completely differently than ways that I have before, and following more of a Carlos Castaneda, Wayne Dyer model for a lot of this stuff than which it isn't a model that is written down anywhere in terms of, well, this is step one, this is step two, this is step three. Um, but I know I just rambled a whole bunch and said a whole bunch of different things. So that's kind of where I'm at with all this stuff.
What you mentioned, one thing I think that would be a fun conversation for us to have in another episode, as because you talked about missing the mark in relation to like sin consciousness, and I think that would be a fascinating conversation to have, and we might make a lot of enemies when we have that conversation, but I have a feeling we'll probably also make a lot of friends.
Hmm.
The the abundance conversation is interesting because we have this, like, traditionally, the way that we're raised to think is that abundance has to do with the quantity of stuff that we have.
Hmm.
And that's not even what the Greek word for abundance means. So then Jesus said, I have come that they might have life and that more abundantly in John 10:10. What is that word abundance? It's not the accumulation of stuff, but yet that's what we're told, right? The gospel of accumulation. Like,
Hmm.
if you're living life the right way, you'll have the stuff that you want
Hmm.
because that's the promise. Well, the promise isn't about stuff. The word is perissos, I think is the way it's said in English, but it's about quality of being that exists
Hmm.
beyond measurement. So, quality of being that exists beyond measurement is the complete opposite of the accumulation of stuff as proof that I'm living my life the right way.
Mm.
So, the one, and you said another thing in there about like, is this right or is it wrong? And so much of our lives, we have the idea that it's either right or wrong. And that's part of our problem
Mm.
in and of itself is thinking that am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? It's not a matter of right or wrong. Is it working or is it not working? That's it.
Mm.
Right? It's a matter of effectiveness, right? Right and wrong turns into good and bad. Good and bad
Mm.
turns into good and evil. And we all know
Mm.
what that does. So when you say right or wrong, the immediate connotation that comes to mind for most people is heaven or hell.
Mm.
So I'm like, if I'm doing it wrong, I'm going to hell. If I'm doing it right, I got a shot. So it's take the right and wrong out of your conversational vocabulary as much as you possibly can because it's not doing you any good. It's keeping you stuck.
Mm.
So let's move away from right and wrong. Let's move towards the how do I measure the effectiveness of what I'm doing? And I can even use some scripture for this. There's barometers for this. So, for example, Jesus said, you take his yoke. His yoke is easy and his burden is light.
Mm.
As I'm walking through my daily life, does it feel easy and light or no?
Mm.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel easy and light, then I have an immediate test, a
Mm.
barometer, a measurement against, which is that's a perfect thing to use a measurement for. Do I feel
Mhm.
easy and light? If I do, odds are I'm walking in the spirit. If I don't, odds are I'm not. It's if I am, I'm probably more likely operating from a Christ consciousness if it feels easy and light. If it doesn't, then I'm probably not.
Mm.
So it's simple. We try to make it hard when it's simple. So if he will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him. Do I feel peace?
Mm.
Okay, well, there's a really good barometer for me to use. So
Mm.
if I don't, then where am I operating from? What is the state of consciousness from which I'm operating? Is it an abundance mindset or is it a scarcity mindset? You can
Mhm.
say walking after the spirit, that's an abundance mindset. Walking after the flesh is a scarcity mindset. Because if you think about the difference between abundance and scarcity, scarcity is all related to the body.
Mm.
It's things that I think the body needs to have a better experience as a body.
Mm.
Am I a body? I hope not. Because if I am, then I'm done in a little while.
What about the body part of this though? Because I don't think you're saying to ignore that aspect of our existence, but what about that aspect of our existence?
So if I am crafting everything about my existence on the part that is only here for a second, as opposed to the part that exists in eternity, don't I have that backwards? I,
Well,
I'm not ignoring the part that's here for a second, but if I put all my attention on that part and I build my life around that part, I'm building it on a scarce on from a place of scarcity because that part goes away.
so there is a balance that's involved in this process.
There's a balance that's involved in the process because right now our perception is as you and I right now our perception is of our each other as a body.
Mm.
So I can know that I'm spirit and your spirit, but the eyes that I have to look with are body eyes.
Mm,
So that's where I think the challenge comes in for most people when they think about this. And that's why I want abundance to be the accumulation of stuff, because I can do that really well and then feel like I'm living an abundant life.
mm,
And then I can feel really bad if I don't, or I can feel really good about myself if I'm doing it and think that they're doing it wrong if they don't have it, looking at someone else.
mm.
And it immediately then puts me in a place of judgment. So if I'm basing abundance on the accumulation of stuff, it's also putting me in a judgment seat.
So is judgment kind of like a barometer in a way for
It
us to know
can
whether or not we're in like what state we're in?
absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why Jesus said, "Judge not, that you be not judged." It's an immediate thing, right? So much of the things that we read in the Bible was interpreted by people that were writing it or translating it so that it would make sense for King James in
Hmm.
the church state that he was creating in England at the time.
Hmm.
And so it became more about institutional control than it did anything else. So if
Hmm.
I say, judge not that you be not judged, that's not a future judgment. That happens immediately. Because if I
Hmm.
judge you, so if I'm judging you as greater than,
Or
or
less
I'm
than.
judging you as less than.
Hmm.
If I judge you as greater than, then in that second that I judge you as greater than, I've judged myself as less than,
Hmm.
and vice versa. In the moment I judge you as less than, I've judged myself as greater than. So judge not that you be not judged is not future judgment, it's immediate. Very, very seldom do I judge as equal to. And
Hmm.
if I judge as equal to, then what I've done is I've judged both. It's the same way because now I've created a standard where I feel like that person is equal to me and that's a good thing.
Hmm.
Well, who gets to choose that? I just did, right? So again, I set the baseline. So when I judged you, I judged me.
Hmm.
Now, I know we're talking about a lot of different things here as we work our way back around towards the
This
abundance
is this is normal, man. People are used to it, anybody that knows you or I, yeah, it's a journey through space.
journey through space. So the interesting thing about abundance, so if and we're going to tie this back, the goal here is to tie this back into what we do for work.
Hmm.
And I say it that way for a reason. So the reason is this is, and this goes to, I speak a lot about this in chapter 1 of Start with Stop
Hmm.
when I
Ah,
talk when I talk about balance. For most people, you got it there.
bam,
Bam.
bam.
Chapter 1. For for most people, balance is backwards because, and this is what's interesting is that the psychiatrists or psychologists out there are saying now that there is no such thing as work-life balance. And I agree with them. And here's the reason why I agree with them. I agree with them because you'll never have balance if you're trying to put work first. I believe you can have life work balance. Life has to come first. So I asked the question in the book is life something that happens while you're doing work, or is work something that happens while you're doing life? The majority of the people, especially in the United States, it's the former. Life's something that happens while they're doing work.
Hmm.
That's why balance is so impossible to find.
Hmm.
the script needs to be flipped. You have no shot at work-life balance if work comes first. You have no shot at abundance consciousness if work comes first. Your abundance consciousness has to come from your life. It springs from you as a being. Abundance is a quality of being. It's not a quality of doing. Work is not being, work is doing. You can't bring doing into being, but being can define your doing.
Mm,
So if you're seeking abundance in what you do for work, don't start there. Start with, how do I find a way to live in abundance so that what I do for work is an extension of that abundance? So that all being said, what questions come up when you hear some of those things?
well, actually, what comes up to is more clarity, because I think that's one of your gifts, Ray, and it's one of my gifts too. But it's awesome to be able to receive it because I'm used to being somebody that gives it. But like talking it out and hearing the responses, like you're taking, um, you're doing what the dad did in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Remember the I think her name is Mia, the girl that the Greek girl that wants to get married, but her sister's got like 8 kids, and
Yeah.
she's the perpetual, like, single girl in her 30s or whatever. But her old man dad, that owns the Greek restaurant, he says, "Oh, just put some Windex on it. Windex will solve everything." And so that's what you're doing basically. You're putting a little Windex on my perspective, and it's getting more and more clear. So, like, for a long time, I bought into the idea that abundance with work was, I guess, kind of, I thought that it was the Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Donald Trump. Like, we can list off all the people that advocate for think big, be, you have to imagine, don't imagine impacting 2 people, imagine impacting 200,000 people or 2 million people. Like, you have to think big in order to attract big, and that's how you're going to, that's what real success is. And I can't honestly say that I have impacted 2 million people. I think there was a period of time when I, was affirming regularly that that was the impact that I was making, that I was reaching these big numbers. And I equated that to significance. And I'm truthfully so grateful that I never experienced that. I don't think that was what my soul came here to
Mhm.
experience. What I, here's where I'm at, and one of the things you're kind of helping me see more clearly, and this is the practice that I have. And I'm trying to remember who else it was that I think it might have been Rob Bell, who I'm becoming. I don't want to call myself a fan, and I don't want to call myself a fan of anybody, but I'm becoming somebody that's very fond of their work. But Wayne Dyer said it too. When you remove money from the reason why you do something, what is it that you have? And when you remove money from the motivating factor behind why you do what you do, what is it that you have? And so uh, I realized that for the longest time, this idea of having this massive impact and attracting all these people, it was all about money because I thought that's what abundance was. And then realizing that no, dude, it's what you said, it's quality of life, but it's also more than enough. And so where I'm at in terms of uh, putting some clarity and putting some nuts and bolts and pieces to, okay, well, what does this actually mean from a professional standpoint? It's like I realized that what I really love doing is a couple of things, but they all involve thinking deeper about stuff, not having surface level conversations and not having surface level interactions. and not telling surface level stories. I love getting these downloads of stories from God and writing them out in parables or longer stories. But what I really love doing is sharing that with people and just seeing how it impacts them. Sometimes I think there's a teaching that's in there, and sometimes I kind of want to articulate that, but most of the time I really just want to see, like, what if somebody else can teach me about my own story? And that really lights me up. And then the other thing that I really enjoy doing is hearing, like, asking people questions and hearing them tell me more about themselves and more about their journey. And then from the interesting ways that I look at things, because I see things through the lens of story, like just kind of being able to point to, okay, well, what you just shared with me here reminds me of, have you read Lord of the Rings? Oh, yeah, I have. Okay, well, it reminds me of this character. Oh, you follow the Spider-Man universe? Oh, yeah, I know Spider-Man. Okay, well, it reminds me of this character. Oh, I've never seen it that way. And like, I love doing that. And to me, that is priceless. Would I do that anyways, but like removing money from the situation or from that being a prerequisite to whether or not I'm going to do this thing, like that just brings me joy. And I'm seeing that there's an integration of sorts instead of, okay, well, this is my talent, this is my skill, and this is my product, and this is my service, and this is how much it costs. And if you want to work with me on this thing, you have to pay this amount of money in order to be able to have this thing. I'm wondering if in the abundance consciousness, if it's not about the money, if that's a part of the equation, but that's not the fullness of the equation, is it a matter of given an opportunity to serve somebody, me just having a conversation with God that's like, hey, this is what I want to do with this person. I don't know what that looks like. What will you work with us to be able to make this work in the best way possible? And then maybe the number amount, the price amount is different for different people because the situation's different and the stories are different. And since that's not the primary focus, that's not the reason why I'm in this business. The reason I'm in this business is this is part of what it is that I do. This is something that I excel at, and I'm getting to give and share from my heart, and it's a blessing in a variety of different ways. And I'm so honored that I'm given the opportunity to be able to do this.
So is that we were since we had kind of texted a little bit about this, and you had said, Spirit said, ask, this is something to talk about with Ray. So then I was like, okay, Spirit, why'd you tell him that? Right. So then I've been thinking about it as well. And the really interesting thing happened this morning in advance of this as I was thinking about this conversation. And that was this revelation that if there's a goal, I'm operating from scarcity.
Hmm.
Even if my goal is to become more Christ conscious,
Hmm.
if my goal is to become abundant, because abundance isn't an achievement, Christ consciousness isn't an achievement. Christ consciousness and abundance are my natural state. The veil that the flesh has put in between what I think I am and what I am is what causes me to think I need a goal. If I just remember that my natural state is abundance, my natural state is Christ consciousness, my natural state is truth, I don't need a goal. Because the minute I have a goal, I'm operating from scarcity. I'm operating from lack of. So my lack of could be material things, but my lack of could also be something that anyone would look at as a noble goal. Who would say that Christ consciousness is not a noble goal? Very,
Hmm.
very few people. So, but if I have that as a goal, then then I am looking at myself from a place of lack. I don't have. instead of the recognition that I am.
Hmm.
So if I believe, there's so many different ways to say this, but it's interesting that I'll give you one or two. If I believe that God is in me and God is all, then how can I be anything other than all? If I believe that I'm anything other than all, then I can't believe that God is in me.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, it's fire, man. Keep bringing the heat.
So if all is all, what goal do I need to have if I'm all? What am I
Hmm.
lacking if I'm all?
Okay. Well, then that brings up the question, what about ambition? What about desire? Where does that fit into the mix?
So I have one function here. There's gonna be a lot of scripture tie-in to this, I think today.
Excellent.
So,
Keep bringing it.
but the funny thing is there's so many things that say funny, but the interesting thing about this is when you look at scripture from the lens of consciousness, not materialism and future
Mm,
judgment and
mm-hmm,
weaponization to
mm-hmm,
get to you to toe the line. When you look at scripture from a consciousness basis, it aligns with so many other religious systems.
mm-hmm,
So when I say that, I'm looking at this from scripture. There's so many tie-ins with other Buddhism and
mm-hmm,
even Hinduism. So there's so
mm-hmm,
many other tie-ins with different religious belief systems that are consciousness based when you read the Bible from a consciousness perspective. I have one function, and Jesus said it. You are the light of the world.
mm-hmm,
That's my function. So what desire should I have other than to fulfill my function?
mm. So what do you do about
And keep in
what do
mind
you
that
do?
you're going to ask the question, but I'm going to preface this with is I'm still learning how this all works. So
Winner. Thank you. I'm so glad that I'm not talking to an expert. Uh, actually, I love all humanity. And I love experts too, or people that think that they are. But that's one of the few things that I'm like very like staunchly, adamantly, and verbally opposed to. No, what do you do about the idea of and the reality of in different capacities of desire? So where does desire fit into the I have one function and that is to be the light of the world? Okay, well, what do I do with my desire? Do I have it but surrender it? And why does God give us desire if there's nothing if there's nothing for us to be other than the light of the world, then why do we have this capacity and why is there so much of our existence that's kind of in a way or in a not just in a way but it is in some capacities driven by desire and the pursuit of desire.
so there's kind of going back to earlier when I was talking about the way that you can tell from which consciousness you are coming. Does it feel easy and light? Does it create pressure?
Hmm.
Does if my desire creates pressure on me, then that is not coming from an abundance mindset. That's
Hmm.
not coming from Christ consciousness. It can't be.
Okay.
Or it wouldn't produce pressure. So the first question I think isn't so much, why did God give us the ability to desire? The question is how do I know if what I'm desiring aligns with what God's will is?
Hmm. Okay.
So I can desire, hey, I could desire a Ferrari. Well, if I'm going to get a Ferrari come hell or high water, I don't care who I have to run over. I don't care how many people I have to screw to get to that Ferrari. Then what is my consciousness? Is it
Mm,
Christ consciousness or scarcity consciousness?
okay.
So it's more, so that's what I would say first is not so much why did God give me the ability to desire, is what did God give me to determine, to help me determine where that desire was coming from.
Hmm. Okay.
So my the wheels are turning a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're sharing stuff with me. The wheels don't stop. Um, so that I guess I'm thinking of Neville Goddard in this conversation too, because so much of what he shared was that 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 God is interested in co-creating with us, and we co-create together through feeling and through the feeling of fulfilled desire. And so, and also that's a part of conversations with God too, that, God shares with Neil that, there's a difference between desire and want. Want comes from a place of lack and scarcity, but desire is something that's about experiencing. And there's this desire that God has to experience life and experience himself through us. And um, so my wheels are spinning because that's aligning with what you're just saying. Like, okay, well, who is navigating what part of me, what part of my consciousness is navigating this desire and navigating through or pursuing its fulfillment. And, am I operating from lack and scarcity? Am I operating from abundance? Am I operating from Christ consciousness? And I think that the distinction for me is to recognize um, that operating in abundance or Christ consciousness or whatever, um, oneness with God is not to be void of desire or not to be void of or absent of there being something um, that is a part of like this experience that we want to have and to get to participate in. Otherwise, we become these very static beings who aren't we might be the light of the world, but all we're doing is just sitting in a room, uh, not actually shining in a way that like, is moving us or anything else forward.
So much of what we equate our lives with is in relation to form,
Hmm.
because which kind of goes back to something that I mentioned earlier, but I think it bears repeating and maybe even some little bit more thought, it questions, and that is, if the snapshot of my existence in form is minuscule in relation to eternity,
Hmm.
but yet my entire focus is maximizing my experience in form. And the Bible says, lay not up for yourself treasures on earth, but lay up treasure for yourself treasures in heaven. One is form, the other is formless. So the interesting thing about that is, it's like, even thinking about this, right? I come into this world with nothing. It matters not how much stuff I accumulate. I leave the
Hmm.
world with nothing.
Hmm.
Just that in and of itself should tell you that the way that we're taught to look at what's supposed to happen in between is upside down.
Okay.
And so the opening line of A Course in Miracles is, nothing real can be threatened.
Hmm.
So can it, everything I see in physical form can be threatened in one way or
Hmm.
another.
Hmm.
So then it says nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. That's the opening line to A Course in Miracles.
Hmm.
Now you've got, I don't know, almost 3,000 pages after that, right?
Hmm.
that,
It's quite extensive.
that goes into the detail of that whole
Hmm.
statement and what it means. The the difference in consciousness is it is material versus spirit. And if I'm coming from a material consciousness, then abundance means stuff. If I'm coming from a Christ consciousness, then abundance means quality of being.
Hmm. Okay.
So like I said, I'm still kind of learning. This isn't like I know the answers to all the questions because I don't know the answers to all the questions. I don't know if I know the answers to any of the questions. I'm just sharing the things that I'm learning as I go.
Hmm.
And they're fun, right? It's fun because I love being wrong.
Hmm.
So if what I'm learning makes everything I learned before it wrong, I love that.
Hmm.
So I mean, I wake up every morning wanting to be wrong because then I'm in a position to learn. If I walk through every day thinking that I'm right about everything, what can I learn
Hmm.
from anyone,
Hmm.
spirit or otherwise? So, like, it's not like, tell me I'm wrong. It's like, hey, show me why I'm wrong, right? What is wrong about this thinking? I don't want to be right. I want to be wrong because that's the only way I can learn.
Okay. So in that vein, what have you been wrong about regarding abundance consciousness in business that you've rediscovered or discovered in some capacity over the past couple weeks?
So, there's so many things like, so in my journey, I used to think that if I checked certain boxes as I went through my career, which had a 36-year career that in insurance before I stepped away. But I had checked all the boxes that anyone would have for what quote unquote abundance would look like in an
Hmm.
insurance career. And I was empty. I was dead wrong. I checked all the boxes. I got to the end of checking the boxes and there was no more boxes to check. And I was like, what the crap?
Hmm.
This is it, right? This is what the top of the mountain is supposed to look like. Why is there
Hmm.
nothing here?
Hmm.
And it was all because as I look back at it, right, I didn't realize while I was doing it, I didn't realize until I got to the end that that wasn't the way I should have been looking at it, but I didn't realize it until I got there.
Hmm.
And it felt empty. Like the chase is what kept me feeling full. When the
Hmm.
chase was over, and I had filled up the bag with all the stuff I was supposed to fill the bag, it was empty.
Hmm.
So then it was like, okay, now what? If that's not what abundance is, then what is it?
Hmm.
So that was 3 years ago. So it's not like it,
Okay.
right? So I mean, this journey that I've been on I've been on it for a lot longer than that, but that part of it didn't come to fruition until 3 years ago.
Hmm.
See, because even though I was going through this consciousness journey for the last 30 years almost, I still hadn't seen that side of it when it came to what I was doing for work. And so that's why when I'm coming at it now with people is the encouragement that I have for them is to come at it from life first. I need to understand what abundance is, not what abundance does.
Oh, okay. Be before do.
It's always be before do because we have it backwards so many times. We think that our we become by doing something differently. Becoming is not the same as being.
Mm-hmm.
That's I you can call that the deceiver's lie, you call that the ego's deception, whatever you want to call it. Doing to become doesn't get you to being what you are. Remembering what you are, if your doing comes from your remembrance of what you are, that's completely different. So now my doing is comes from what I am,
Mm.
not the other way around. I'm not trying to become something by doing something else differently.
That's a
So
game changer.
it totally flips what you mentioned in episode 3 when I said that. If people that are selling abundance aren't selling abundance, they're selling abundance from a scarcity standpoint, which means they're not selling abundance.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. You can't sell abundance. So if there's a measurement, if you can measure it, it's not abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Because abundance is complete, abundance is whole, abundance is all. There's no measurement for all. It's just all. So if I place this was another thing that came to me when I was having the conversation with Spirit about, okay, why does D want to talk to me? Why should D be asking me about this? And this is one that's kind of fun too. Is if I want another test of the consciousness that I'm coming from with anything, how is it labeled? Did I put a
Mm.
label on it? Because when I put a label on it, I've given it a role. When I put a label on it and I've given it a role, now I've created expectations for it. Now it can be measured because I labeled it. So the
Mm.
label puts it in to the measurement category, which by definition makes a label a limitation.
Mm. So this reminds me of the Tao. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. Hmm.
Good. I hadn't made that correlation until you just did, but 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So that's to me, that is, I use this as an example. So, like, I don't know your parents.
Hmm.
I don't have any expectation of them. I've not labeled them as anything.
Hmm.
I don't know who they are. I don't know what they do. I don't know what kind of people they are. I don't know how they act. I don't know how anything. I know nothing about them. So in in a scarcity consciousness perspective, they mean nothing to me.
Hmm.
Now, if they're my parents, that's completely different. Now I have expectations based on the role that's been assigned.
Hmm.
And now if they don't perform, then there's a measurement. And by definition, there's limitations.
So roles involve non-abundance, non-Christ consciousness.
Now, write that down, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Class has been very in session today.
But you're going to teach now. So
We'll see about that.
take what I just said and talk about it through the lens of, I might say it wrong, Ho'onopono?
Ho'oponopono?
Ho'ono, yes. Talk about it through that lens. It fits in that
Hmm.
lens. You have to think about it for a
Yeah.
second and then talk about it.
Yeah. So before I do that, I need to, since there's people that are listening and watching, Ho'oponopono is ancient Hawaiian spiritual practice that really is so much of aligning ourselves with Christ consciousness, even if the teachers of that, more prominent teachers of that, don't necessarily frame it in that context. When you get down to the nuts and bolts, that's exactly what it is. Um, and Ho'oponopono, the more that I read anything in metaphysics, mysticism, actually Judaism, Christianity, uh, uh, Eastern religious practices, in a way, Buddhism, sort of. But what it is it's Windex. It's Windex.
Windex.
It's taking a spiritual Windex and spraying it on the lens that we are viewing everything through ourselves, God, others, life, and cleaning the lens, the glass, so that what we're seeing is actually the all. So we're really seeing God and we're really one with God. So what Ray just said about roles involving us giving roles and expectations based on roles to other people is operating in, I guess, ego consciousness, if we're going to frame that all as non-abundance, non-Christ consciousness, um, lack, scarcity, all those different things. Um, for me, this goes back to what you said towards the beginning of our conversation about um, anytime we're judging somebody, we're making a comparison. Like when you're talking about like the right wrong sort of dynamic. Once judgment comes into play, if I'm judging somebody or something or myself as right or wrong, then I'm elevating. There's a barometer. There's a rating system that's involved in that. And as soon as I'm doing that, I'm not in abundance. I'm not in Christ consciousness because I'm not in the all. And where Ho'oponopono fits into this is uh, my interpretation in this moment is it's not necessarily about the role as much as it is what are the expectations, conscious and unconscious, that I've placed on this person because of this designation or this designated role. So you mentioned parents. If I think of my mom and the relationship that I have with her, and then I think about her as a mother, and then I think of expectations because whether that's cultural, societal, familial, or just me. Well, because she's my mom, that should mean X, Y, and Z, what she does, how she operates, what all these different things. Now I'm in the judgment place. Now there's expectations that are part of that. And now I've disconnected myself or stepped out of Christ and abundance consciousness. And I'm looking at things from a measurement standpoint. Now there's a scale. As soon as there's a scale, I'm not in the right frame. So where Ho'oponopono comes in is it's in the basics of Ho'oponopono are four one-line prayers. There's a hyper version that I practice um, that came from Dr. Akihala Lin. You can read about him in another book called Zero Limits. That dude was incredible. But it's cleaning and clearing. So as soon as I recognize something in my experience that I don't like, and we'll keep this on the expectation thing, and whether it applies to my mom or my dad or step parents or aunts and uncles or anybody, um, because I want to play fair. But as soon as I recognize that, even now in this from this conversation, you've heightened my awareness, Ray, because it's not going to be. I think in the past for me, it's been a sense of disappointment, or it's been a sense of um, some sort of right or wrong thing, whether that's on me or I'm projecting that onto them. But if I'm aware that there's a judgment in place, I have to go within myself and say to God and to myself, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I take 100% responsibility for judgment. Good, bad, and out, left, right, doesn't matter. There's some sort of judgment here. Some of it I'm aware of, some of it I'm not. But everything involving judgment and everything involving um, expectations. Clean, 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 clear, clear, clear that from my consciousness, my mind, heart, body, spirit, energy field, and from my ancestry, and from the energetic connections and relationships I have with any other human being on earth, in particular, the relationship between me and my parents, and replace it with Christ consciousness, abundance, divine love. Thank you. I love you. Now, in that moment, I don't have a can of spray anything here, but let's just pretend that this dry erase marker is Windex.
The
So I've
window.
and I've taken a wipe and I've wiped the lens clean, and I've done that on my part. God does the invisible work under the soil and actually cleans and clears the energy. So now that what I've experienced in my life when I practice Ho'oponopono is I you talked a minute ago too about it's not good or bad, it's the results. What results come from this practice? It's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. There's nothing to judge on this, but is it producing effective results? From my experience when I practice Ho'oponopono, it's pretty instantaneous. And I'm doing it all the time. When I'm having conversations with people, I'm hearing them talk about different things. I'm praying because it's a reflection of something inside of me that I can't see. And so wherever that's coming from that I can't see, it's not a literal thing. Like if somebody's having beef with somebody else, it's not a literal thing. I don't have beef with that person, but the fact that they have beef with each other on something, that there's something inside of me that I can't see. So I'm sorry, please forgive me for whatever's going on in the unseen parts of me that I don't know, I'm not aware of energetically. Clean, 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 clear, 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 replace with Christ consciousness, abundance, divine love. Thank you, I love you. There's the whole thing. And
Yeah.
that I feel the shift take place in me, and I feel myself shift out of being in a place of judgment and being in a place where I'm trying to evaluate things or trying to figure things out. That's another thing that's occurred to me that like I've stepped out of Christ consciousness and out of oneness with the creator when I'm trying to figure things out because the how is not my freaking job.
Yeah, exactly. What's funny is, so when I was thinking about this, I thought about the tie-in to the Hawaiian practice, and because you and I had talked about it before, and I knew I was going to bring it up, so it's hard to put you on the spot without telling
Oh,
you I
I
was going to do it.
appreciate it.
The so I would say the version that I've been using the last couple of days, really literally the last 2 or 3 days only, is because it just occurred to me. So like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I'm learning as I go. Is the necessity for me to forgive myself
Hmm.
for assigning you a function different than the one God gave you. So if I'm assigning you a role other than you are the light of the world, then I'm giving you a function that's different than the one that God gave to you.
Mm.
I don't need to forgive you for that. I need to forgive myself for that. So that's where that's evolved for me, right? That it is in that practice. That's how that practice has kind of evolved for me is I forgive myself for assigning you a role or assigning you a function that was outside of the one function that God gave you.
Minds are being
Blown.
blown.
Now, somehow we never got around to abundance in business, I have a whole thing to say about it. So I don't know where we may have to have another episode where we actually drill down even farther, which is fine because we're only 5 episodes in. The
I think that part of the beauty of this whole thing is that because that's the name of our podcast. Like we're never going to cover everything. We
can't.
can't. How do you cover all angles? You can't. And that's the
Mhm.
point.
You can't. We'll leave a teaser though. Can we leave a teaser?
You're 50% of this thing. We can do whatever we want to do.
So if you want to know, so think about the difference between a spring that gives water and a cistern that holds it.
Mm,
Same water,
different functions.
different functions. The water in a cistern becomes stagnant.
Hmm.
The
The
water in a
spring.
spring is continuously fresh.
Uh-huh.
One of those is a representation of scarcity in
Mm,
business, and the other is a representation of abundance in business, as in
mm,
life. So, so that the reason why I wanted to drill down more into the concept itself of abundance itself and what that means and what it looks like is because if you don't have that understanding, you can't apply it to business. You're coming at it backwards. And if you're coming at
mm,
it backwards, you're going to end up upside down. That's the only way that you have to come at it from the right side in order to end up right side up.
mm,
So I think to me, the key to understanding what abundance consciousness looks like in business is understanding what abundance consciousness is in life. Life comes first. Business is just a game that we play while we're doing life. If it's anything other than that for you, it's probably not working, or you wouldn't be having to ask the question.
mm. Well, that makes actually more sense than I can put words to because I think that um, I think that for the past year and a half, maybe, God has done something. God usually does this to me when massive transition is going to take place. And when I ask about it, he says, "Oh, I'm preparing you, preparing to give you what you asked for." Okay. What that is I'm, you know, skinny little me walking around, and he kind of picks me up, takes me from where I think I'm going, and places me on a place where kind of by myself. There's some people around, some very specific people, but I don't have access to the same kind of groups and connections and opportunities and stuff that I did before when I was on this different sort of path because I thought that I knew where I was going. And so I recognize that the being prepared that I've been in and am in now is the life part. And then everything else just kind of falls in line.
So that one other way that I'll say it to start to kind of wrap things up and tell me what you think about this is abundance is not a business strategy.
Mm,
Abundance is a consciousness that produces a strategy.
so,
So we're back to abundance is the being that does.
so this, you mentioned earlier, you know, not seeking treasures on earth or setting aside treasures on earth, but setting aside treasures in heaven. Kingdom of heaven is where?
Is within you, but where within you is the question.
Mm,
It's
okay.
so that might be a different conversation, but the part of it can't be in the part of you that dies. It has to be in the part of
Mm,
you that doesn't, or it couldn't be the kingdom of heaven. It can only be the kingdom of hell. So it has to be in your mind, not your
isn't it that?
brain, your mind.
Okay.
And that's so man, this just get I'm having a really hard time just not going for 4 hours again. But that's laying up for yourself treasures is not about material things. It can't
Mm-hmm.
be because you can't take them with you. Or I don't remember who said there's no pockets in a shroud, but there's that's one of my favorite lines. Just
Mm,
remember, there's no when you go to funeral homes unless there's only two people there to talk about the dead, they the things that you hear aren't man, he really knew how to make a lot of money.
ooh, that is facts. Last year. I went to the only funeral I've been to in the last 2 years, and my family member that died was very wealthy, but that wasn't something that was mentioned.
Now, if that's all they were, then the only people that are going to be at the funeral home are the ones that are hoping to get some of the money.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if that's not what they were really about, then the things people talk about have nothing to do with how they were really good at accumulating wealth.
Mm,
That what was life like with them? How did it feel?
yeah.
Like, was it an enriching experience? Was it a draining experience? You're that's the perspective. If you want to look at it through the lens of death, then look at it through the lens of death. Like the only people that are going to be at somebody's famous funeral are going to be because they were famous. And then the other people that were close to them might be there because they know what the person was really like.
Mm,
But if there's 10 people at your funeral and you were a multimillionaire, you were probably an asshole. And the 10 people that are there because they're hoping for a cut.
and at that, we're gonna wrap up our.
That's a good, it ended on a good laugh.
Yeah, why not?